This is Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur with your host, Lynn Freest. Lynn will share ideas and expert advice from people that are walking in your shoes and living their encore careers, where they want and at the pace they want. You'll start a company of one with confidence and knowledge to live a fulfilled life of freedom and ease. Lynn is a coach and leadership consultant whose mission is to show senior leaders and experts how to start something refreshing and new after a full career in the corporate environment.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Creating Your Encore Career. My name is Lynn Freest, and I'm glad to have you with us. Today's episode is episode 101, and it's going to be about 5 conversations you need to have when beginning your Encore career. My goal is to help you create a compelling future for yourself in an Encore career, or as I like to say, a silver entrepreneur. I'll also share ideas on how companies can connect with the talent that you will provide for them. I always encourage you to visit my website and download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode and use that as a tool to capture notes as you explore the concepts in this episode. Just as a side note, I was looking up some data, and the baby boomer generation now totals around 73 million of the population. It's a little over a fourth of the 4 segments they have for the population. And there are about 20 million that are actively participating in the workforce, and that number is expected to go up. So again, as you're listening to this, you're not alone, and you're part of an active senior piece of the workforce. So in this episode, we're going to talk about 5 conversations you need to have when beginning your Encore career. Now, it's easy to say, but it can be very challenging, and it will get you used to selling yourself in front of a safer crowd. So these conversations are sort of a warm-up before you take your business public. So the 5 conversations I'm going to suggest you have is, first, a conversation with yourself. Second, a conversation with your family. Third, a conversation with your mentors or peers, and maybe ones you have already or maybe ones you hope to have. Then have a conversation with your lawyer, accountant, other professionals that might be able to help you and can give you good advice as far as starting your own business. And then finally, the conversation with your early adopters. And this could be friends and colleagues, and eventually you're going to reach out farther than that. But to begin with, just talk to some people you know who, in theory, could be your customers. So that first conversation, the conversation with yourself. I encourage you to do the exercise from my friend Paul Axtell called 25 Things. And really, it's a quite simple thing. Just sit down and write down a page, your 25 things that you want. And it could be anything that you want in life. Where do you want to live? What you want in terms of income? Do you want to have a great relationship with your family or your wife? Any number of things what is it you want in life? And just allow it to flow out. There's no editing. These is not your life's goals or anything like this. This is just things that occur to you. And this is, I think, a great exercise just to dump out and see what kind of things come up. And then don't do it just once, but once you've written them down, sit with it for a while, put it aside, maybe next week come back and take a look at it again. I've done this many times, and I find, the things that occur to me as to what I want are different from this month to several months ago or till last year. Again, it's just an idea to get it out of your head and put it on a piece of paper. The next part of the conversation with yourself is, what do you think is possible? Again, do you think you can go out and be a solo entrepreneur? Can you be a company of one? What do you think is possible for you? Can you reach 100 people? If you do a simple seminar, you could reach 20 to 40 people. So what would that look like? Then you can think about, is there someone who is doing what you want to do? Again, this is just for yourself to consider. I remember so-and-so did this, and I was intrigued by what they had done with their career pivot. Then thinking about what you want to do, does this really excite you? And by that, I don't necessarily mean you won't think it's difficult, but does it give you energy? And then the next piece is, do you want to do it for the next 5 years? Now, again, you may not have an aspiration for a 20-year career, but you're going to be around for a while. So is this something you'd really be interested in doing for 5 years? Or is it something that's really a project that once you do it, you'll go on to something else? So just be thinking about that. There's no right or wrong answer. And then I want you in this conversation with yourself to think about some of your past successes and in some detail. It wasn't, I was successful as a logistics manager. What are the things that you were proud of that you did in that job? What are the things that people appreciated that you did? So think back over your career, the successes you had, and what are the things that you're proud of? Again, gives you a clue as to, one, what you're good at, and two, as you think about those, what gives you energy? It could be you were very good at some particular skill and you hated every minute of it. So even that is worth noting because, again, just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean in this chapter of your life you want to do more of it. Also, I'll suggest you consider going back and checking out episode 29 on my podcast, which was titled Habits of Mind and Action. I talk about some of these ideas in more detail. Or episode 62, which was Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur, and I called it Steps 1 and Steps 2 of that. So think about those if you want to hear some more about this subject. The next conversation is with your family. And I'll say that this is something that somebody told me once. Could I explain what I do to my spouse or my mother? And it was hard for me to explain that. I stumbled around, didn't know what to say, but this is the idea is, can you explain what you intend to do in your new career to spouse and mother, people who are not experts in your field? Understanding that your family, they may not understand you, they might even discourage you. But on the other hand, if you get them on board, if you've talked it through with them, they can be great supporters during the startup because there's going to be times that are lonely and tough, and they'll be there to help you. The other thing is their questions, while you may find them challenging, will help you create some clarity in what you'll be working towards. The fact that you can answer their questions mean that you're going to be able to answer questions from other people. They also might surprise you, and they might know somebody you should connect with. Spouses, family, we probably don't give them enough credit for the people they know and the ideas and stuff they might point us towards. And then I think you need to help them understand the possible ups and downs of independent work. You're going to be in a startup mode. You're going to be a startup company. This isn't going to be just like you getting up in the morning and going off to the office and coming home at night. You'll work odd hours probably. Help them understand that there are going to be ups and downs here. And then finally, talk through with them the differences in corporate life and a company of one. And again, this is for you as well as for them. I remember interviewing Lee Cockrell, who was a senior executive at Disney. And he said one of the first things his wife told him when he started his business after retiring is, I am not your secretary. So you may have had people that would help you or do things for you. Don't assume your spouse or family is going to do these same things for you. But again, let them know that, yeah, this is not the corporate role. I don't go to work, come home. Things happen at different times in a different rhythm. So again, having a good conversation with what's going to go on is, I think, very useful. Now, also, you might consider checking out our episodes numbers 12 and 13. And those are two different episodes having to do with great conversations and having difficult conversations. So again, they go more into the depth of this idea, how to have a great conversation with your family or other people. The next conversation is to have with your mentors or peers, ones you have today, have had in the past, or you hope to have in the future. And it's simple. Who have you looked to in the past for advice and help? Go back, talk to them again about what you hope to do. Who might you consider as a good resource in the future? There may be people around doing similar things to you or people that have gone this path before you. It'd be worthwhile to check with them. For example, and I'll mention this later, I talked to SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. There were people there who had been on the path that I was hoping to be on, and they could offer me some great insights. Also, you can go and, again, step outside your normal experience and go to entrepreneurial groups. Now, this may be people of all ages that are starting businesses. Some will be brick and mortar businesses, maybe not that you're interested in, but they're all going through a process of starting up a business, becoming a company of one or a company of a few. Then I think it's also useful for you to search LinkedIn, do web searches, look for podcasts, YouTubes, all around the topics that you're interested in being an expert in, because you'll be amazed at the different things you'll find. Some you'll think they're doing just what I am. But as I said at the start of this podcast, there are 73 million people in the boomer generation. There are over 20 million that are working. There's a lot of need for stuff out there that you can do, and only you have your voice to share it. Then there's another interesting idea for people who are doing startups or getting started. Who could be your board of directors? You could start off with just some friends and colleagues that you've already had. Who could you have coffee with and just talk about stuff? But maybe you want to be more intentional in that. And you might say once or twice a year, I'm going to have sit down for coffee with my bankers and some other colleagues that I admire and see what they have to say at this point in my business. Then finally, I think it's important to start thinking about who might be a peer group that you want to join. I mentioned earlier entrepreneurial groups, but there may be other groups. There may be meetups. There may be different groups in your community. Or I've joined mastermind groups that were all online. But you might want to find out where can you find a peer group. So again, it's easier to get support for a group of other people who are going through the same path that you are. Sometimes family don't understand the path. Friends, they're just not on that same path. So it's helpful to find a peer group that you can, again, grow with and learn from, as well as they'll help push you ahead also. That fourth conversation then is with your lawyers, your accountants, professional people. They can find you what are the key requirements needed for the business you want to start, how to pay attention to doing the taxes. There's all these aspects of business you probably didn't have to do much with as a corporate employee. So they're there to help you. Don't make any missteps. And again, they can really steer you away from those early pitfalls. Also, they may have other clients doing similar work that they can introduce you to. So there may be people that they already do business with that are in the same field. Or they may have people that they know of that need your talent. So it could work that way too. Also with these people, it wouldn't be unlikely that you're able to find people that can do parts of your business or activities in your business that they're really better at, and they can do better than you can. So consider allowing them to do some pieces of business for you, whether it be bookkeeping or filing taxes or any number of things that they're really better at than you are. And that allows you to stick to your highest value work, where you're really going to add the most value to yourself and others. And now the final conversation is with what I'll call your early adopters. And this is really just the beginnings of your customer discovery process. You want to look for others that you might know that have started an Encore career or that might want your services in the future. You could maybe ask former employees or colleagues if they have ever hired consultants or people for the kind of work that you want to do. And whoever you talk to, ask them to suggest who else you might talk to. It's amazing the referrals you can get. They might say, I really don't have any insights on this. If you talk to Susan over there, she's really got a better feel. So always, in whatever conversation you have, always finish up the conversation by saying, could you introduce me to someone else that might be able to answer my question or could give me some additional insights? Again, sometimes it's the person who knows somebody is where you end up finding your most valuable information. And then finally, again, as I mentioned earlier, search and scan Google, industry news, even job boards for work similar to what you do. You start to get a feel of what are people hiring for out there? What do they call the work that you might do? You might be a great leader in logistics, but there may be some specific topics that people are searching for when they look for someone to help them with logistics. Search and scan, use Google, even go into Amazon. See who's writing books on the subject that you're interested in being an expert on, or that I should say you are an expert on and you're interested in finding work for them. So finally, on this section with your early adopters, consider checking out episode 77, which is Finding Your Ideal Customer, and look at episode 96, which is Customer Discovery Process for an Encore Career. So that kind of wraps up this quick session today. Again, my deepest thanks to you, my wonderful listeners. I humbly appreciate that you have chosen to spend some time with me. And I look forward to sharing more ideas around creating an Encore career, leadership, emotional intelligence, and even manufacturing. So here's a quick review of what we covered in this episode. 5 conversations you need to have when beginning your Encore career. First, a conversation with yourself. Second, a conversation with your family. Third, a conversation with your mentors and peers. Fourth, a conversation with your lawyer, accountants, other professionals. And then finally, conversation with your early adopters, who are the people that can get you started on finding where it is that your work is needed. So again, I encourage you to visit my website, download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode as you start exploring the ideas in this episode. And please consider leaving a review in iTunes or on my website. Or also feel free to ask me any questions you might have about the Encore career or being a silver entrepreneur. I want to help you work where you want to, work when you want to, and work at the pace you want to. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.